Hello, I'm Kathleen Fee and welcome to Bloomsday, Montreal. Colleen Curran is here, Montreal playwright and performer and an all-around amazing gal. And she's going to be reading from her new play, The Sunset Gals, and a couple of other works. I'm very excited that she's here and that she is here under the auspices of Playwrights Guild of Canada. They're sponsoring this afternoon's reading through a program that they have set up to help playwrights who, of course, their plays are not being performed in the theaters. So it's absolutely great that we've been able to partner with them for this particular event. And now what I'd like to do is introduce you to Kevin Wright, president of Bloomsday, Montreal, who's going to be hosting this afternoon. I'll be helping out in some way with the question and answer period afterwards. So I'm handing you over to Kevin. Thank you, Kevin.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's hard to believe that we're almost halfway through the celebrations of Bloomsday 2020. This afternoon, it's my honor to introduce Colleen Curran, who is a much-produced playwright and is proud of being a Montrealer of Irish descent who has also taken up the ukulele. Among her many plays are Cakewalk, True Nature, which premiered at Centaur Theatre, Sacred Hearts, and Ireland's own Carmen O'Reilly Tonight. In 2018, Bloomsday Montreal hosted the one-night-only equity showcase of Godot at the Coconut Grove. Colleen had also been a reader both on Bloomsday, June 16th, and on February 2nd, the celebration of James Joyce's birthday. In addition to the web sensations that are her Bloomsday puppet shows featuring Mr. James Joyce and a host of his literary friends, Colleen is presently writing the episodic series Kitty Calling. Her new novel, Out Stars, whose opening scene is set on June 16th, was on the long list for this year's Stephen Leacock Medal for Humor. Please welcome Colleen Curran.
Welcome everybody to my kitchen. As you can see, I've made it a shrine to my work. It doesn't usually look like this. Anybody who's been here knows it doesn't look like this. Anyway, so it's kind of appropriate that I am doing something from my kitchen, given that a lot of my work is written now from my kitchen because it's become my office. But for me, which is really interesting, is that my father, I'm the daughter of Pat Curran, and he's the sports writer for the Montreal Gazette. And for many years, he covered the Montreal Canadiens hockey team. And what he would do often was Saturday, he would see the game, and his column would appear on Monday. And he would often write his stories at the kitchen table at our house. So for me, he would type them away, and then the next day they would appear in the paper. So for me and my sister Peggy became a columnist for the Gazette and everything. For us, we grew up with somebody who wrote for a living, and we always thought of it as something very public. So for me, whatever you wrote, somebody was going to be publishing it or producing it. So I think that's how I kind of thought that everything I would write would eventually be produced. But hopefully that will happen. So what I'm going to start with today for you is I'm going to read to you from Sunset Gals, a little bit from my new play, The Sunset Gals. And what happened was this, because of the pandemic, I was supposed to be going to Penticton, BC with it. And they're going to be doing a special reading where the Grandmothers for Africa, we're going to be doing a special reading benefit with it. So that has been postponed till next year. But thank you to Bloomsday, I'm going to get a chance, and Playwrights Guild of Canada, I'm going to get a chance to share some of this with you. So here we go, a little bit from The Sunset Gals. I'll begin there. Okay, all right. The Sunset Gals. Two women, Trudy and Carson, sit on the landing of a red boathouse which juts out over the lake. They are eating pie. Great pie. This is without doubt the best maple cream pie of yours I have ever tasted. I would not contest you on that. Exquisite. Why'd you make so many? Church Fair will be complaining. Well, no, when they can sell them for $12 each. 16. That's kind of expensive. Still a bargain. You have any idea how many gallons of sap it takes to make just 1 gallon of syrup? 40. Yeah, you bet 40. But doesn't your brother give it to you from his sugar shack? That shouldn't count. It's for the church, Trudy. You're right. But it's just the maple cream you'll charge 16 for, right? Yeah, the others can go for 12. You have a lot of variety. I should say so. You sure made a lot of them. How many did you do? I didn't count. I just had a lot of time on my hands. That's all. Too bad about the Gestetners getting their bats back in their belfry. And here we were thinking the bats were all dead and gone due to the white nose syndrome killing them all off. How many bats was it? Close to 30 that they got out. Of course, they weren't counting on that body being stuffed in their upper attic too. They got any idea yet who it might be? All I heard is it's been there a long, long time. Maybe whoever it was went up there and died, or somebody dragged a lifeless body up there when the house was unoccupied. How long was the place empty way back then? Quite a while. That would be how there'd be nobody smelling the decomposing, unless it was already pretty dead when it got there. Guess it'll be an autopsy? Who knows when the body is that far gone? By now it's probably nothing but a skeleton or mummified. They did some successful CSI with mummies. Oh yeah, that experiment they had at the big museum. One of those pharaohs. They hit him with some kind of scientific rays. How did he die in the end? Natural causes in Egyptian days. Of course, that was a 3,000-year-old corpse. And it was wrapped up in all those bandages embalmed in fancy spices. She sees somebody coming across the lake. Hey, Juliet! Hi, Trudy, Carson, beautiful night. Juliet appears on a paddleboard. It sure is. You're pretty handy on that paddleboard. Well, I'm getting the hang of it. You handle that pole like it's a gondola. Are you up for the sunset? And the egrets and herons and poor sitting ducks. Did you tell them to clear up before hunting season starts? Yeah, but do you think they'd listen to me? Their funeral. Too true. It's like World War III when they start shooting. Would you like some pie? You made some? A lot of them. And all kinds of flavors too. Tempting, but no thanks. You on a diet? No, I had a big dinner and I'm driving. We were just saying it's terrible about the Gestetners on the body in their attic they didn't know they had. It's a man, or he was when he was alive, but 40 years ago. He's been there that long? Give or take, he's not a pretty sight. Well, no, it must be foul play for sure. Could be. Just how foul is for the police to figure out. Oh yeah. Any clues? What's left of the shirt he was wearing has some sort of lodge badge on it. Oh, that's got to be a good clue for sure. It's a lead. Maybe even better than dental records or even fancy forensic. Uh-huh. I better get going if I want to paddle off into that sunset. You gals have a nice rest of the evening. Juliet paddles off. You too, Juliet. Nice gal. Big surprise when she graduated from the police academy. Much more of a people person than a cop. She didn't have brandy with her. Dog doesn't like the water. Unusual for a Labrador. There wouldn't be enough room for brandy on that paddleboard. Oh, she'd fit her on if she wanted her to come along. Juliet loves that dog. Nice of her to share her insights into the investigation. Wonder what the insignia on the shirt says. Probably pretty worn away by now. Well, they'll start asking about lodge man that went missing 40 years ago. Maybe he's not even from around here. He could be some drifter. More likely he was a local. Why'd you say that? Why would a total stranger wind up dead in Gestetner's attic? Why would anybody? True. And how? How did he get put up there? Or did somebody lure him up and hit him in the head with something, thinking they'd get back under cover of darkness to move him to a better place? Was it a crime of passion? You should join Juliet's detective squad. I'm just wondering. Stevie Champagne. He ran off on that poor girl, leaving her that goodbye note in his car and all his worldly possessions. Least he could do. And for years she'd get envelopes in the mail filled with cash till that stopped. Well, that baby of his grew up to be a doctor. Stevie never ever came back. There was no love lost between you two. He ruined my wedding. It was a joke, meant stupid things for stag nights. I wasn't laughing, and neither was Henry. I walk up the aisle, and there he is with his leg in a cast. But it wasn't really broken. They didn't tell us that till the end of the reception. At least you knew before you set off on your honeymoon. I did my first dance with my husband, clunking around like Frankenstein. You're right. It was kind of mean. It was mean, cruel, and dastardly. But it's something you can laugh about now. Do you see me laughing? No, but yet. Yeah, but I bet you had some revenge fantasies. So would you if Stevie did that to your wedding groom? Well, they left my Danny tarred and feathered chained to a tree. But he made it to your wedding in walking condition. Stevie and his gang didn't say, hey, won't this be funny? Let's let him pass out drunk and then put his leg in the plaster cast and make him think he broke it. True. Yeah. So what? Nothing. It's just that it's something you have to get over. Move on. Oh, I did. Stevie wasn't the only one who was part of that stag night, but it was his idea. He was the ringmaster. And Stevie's the only one who left town all of a sudden. There's a look that tells all. More pie? No, this'll do me. It's better. Better what? Are you threatening me? No. Oh my God, Carson. No. Just all that pie baking, guilt cooking. I had to do something to take my mind off this. When? Why? How? The less you know, the better. Please just hush up. You killed Steve. Was it by accident? Sure. You're kidding. You planned it? Yes. It was murder in the first degree. But why did you leave the body there? Circumstances beyond my control. Look at that. We missed the sunset. It went down when we weren't looking. Did you have an accomplice? I acted alone. You poor thing. And all these years, you knew he was stashed in their attic, rotting away there, knowing any day they might find him? Uh-huh. I put it out of my mind and I didn't think about it. Oh, you're amazing. I'd be thinking about it all the time. And what good would that do me? Don't ask me any more questions. I have so many of them. I'll answer them if I have to. Let's leave it at that. I must say, though, feels good to finally be able to tell somebody. I'm the first to know. No, Stevie was. Then you. I would have helped you if you'd asked. We could have moved that corpse where nobody would ever find it. How could I drag you into my mess? Judy's the town's tragedy queen. That's only in the past year. I could have helped you all these decades ago. Thanks. Sweet of you to offer. Come by tomorrow morning. I can use your help. But the police have the body by now. I know, but the church doesn't have the pies. Oh, them. We can make a delivery. Act like everything's normal. Okay, but I won't get a wink of sleep. You and me both, sweetie. So that's the first scene. So I should have warned you. First of all, this is making, I love it. I wore it, but it's going clanky clank, as you might have noticed. So it's perfect. Anyway, so what happened was, the reason I got this story was, I was at a party, a dinner party in Vermont, and this man was telling the story about how he hit, so this had happened at a wedding he was at. It was a friend of his that had happened to them, where they had gotten him drunk and put his leg in a cast, and he showed up at the wedding with his leg in the cast, and they didn't tell the bride, and kind of whatever. So I got really upset, and I said to him, well, what? He did that, and he said, yeah, and he started laughing and laughing. He thought it was the funniest thing. He was crying, laughing, and the more I got upset, the more he was laughing. And he said, oh, no. He said, yeah. So I said, well, what did she do? She must have been so upset he ruined her wedding. And he went, well, yeah, you know. So I said, well, did she ever speak to him again, or did she let her husband have anything to do with this person that had done this to her husband? He went, oh, well, you know, men, it's dags, you know, chivalries, that's what they do. So I thought, that's terrible. And so I thought, what if, so it kind of stayed with me. It's kind of festered. And I thought, what if she never got over it? And so I had this little story about this terrible thing happening to this bride on her wedding day by this stupid man who did the stag. And so I wrote this little short piece. So originally, Sunset Gals was a little 10-minute piece. And it was the two of them sitting on a dock eating pie. And we find out that one has killed this guy that had did this. So then I thought some more, and I thought, maybe Trudy got up to some bad business too. So as a result, it's now become a whole play, and there is a play with 4 women in it. And there's one is Juliet, the UNF police officer, and then Trudy and Carson and Adelaide. And Adelaide, Trudy, and Carson are pillars of the community. They're the most wonderful women on. Everyone adores them. But it turns out by the end of the play, all 3 of them are responsible for a death. Within 24 hours, they find 3 bodies. I should have warned you, this is very macabre play of mine. So that's what kind of happened. So Juliet is the police officer on this. And oh, I should tell you something went like going on. When we did the reading of it, my friend Mary Burns, who played Carson, said, "This is a bit much. I mean, she killed somebody because he ruined her wedding." But I know, so that's acting for you. You have to kind of do that kind of thing. So anyway, in the play, there's 3 bodies get found over 24-hour period. And one of them is when they go to deliver the pies at the church in the basement, in the freezer. They just arrived as Adelaide has found a body that she left in the freezer. There was a man named Tommy Mackay, who was this great guy, did a lot of good work for the charities, for the food bank and all these different people. And she found out that he was stealing pies and their food from the food bank and selling it to other people. And she got so mad at him, to teach him a lesson, she closed the freezer on him because she caught him stealing stuff in the freezer. And because she's also the local midwife, she was called away to help bring a baby into the world. By the time she got back to get him out of the freezer, it was too late. He was dead. So so this is kind of charming. So anyway, Tommy Mackay is dead, and there's 3 bodies, and they have to hide them, and it's all this complicated things. But what happens is that we find out that everybody that got it, all 3 people that got killed are kind of criminally people. So they kind of, dare I say, deserved it. But so this little scene I'm going to read to you right now is when Juliet, the police officer, comes to the house, starts telling her about this guy, Tommy Mackay, that ended up in the freezer, who he really was, what this guy really was like, that he was not a very nice person. So here we go. There's Juliet, the police officer, telling the 3 women who, and Juliet, of course, has no idea that they are involved with this. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Tommy Mackay never did anything to help humanity. Oh, yes, I should tell you that she's brought her dog Brandy with her on her investigation, this lovely dog. That's why you're going to hear Brandy every so often. Okay. Tommy Mackay never did anything to help humanity. Good. Okay, I did practice this, believe it or not. Okay. Now, did you notice this morning that Tommy had stacked up your dairy products in an interesting manner? We went over to his house to give his wife the bad news. We're here about Tommy. He's away on business, she says. Not anymore, I'm afraid. And that's when she says, are you ready? I'm calling my lawyer. That's pretty strange. So we walk right in. And what do we see but stacks and stacks of merchandise of every kind, crates of food, and all kinds of suitcases. You can't come in here, you need a warrant. Imagine going to a place where you'd wind up telling somebody she's a widow and under arrest. She's a very shifty, cool customer, that Mrs. Mackay. Brandy, stop. She could have locked him in that freezer. Now, I know you don't want to hear bad things about anyone, Adelaide, but Tommy Mackay was a bad guy. You know all your Christmas turkeys that went missing last year? It was Tommy and Mrs. Mackay selling them on some black market. Can you believe it? Last fall, a cash box full of cash went missing during a benefit at the Legion. The cash box showed up later in the evening, empty. $3,126 gone. Guess who was a proud member of that Legion? Debonair Tommy with his little bow ties and lovely manners. Who would ever suspect him? He's diabolical. And I'm just checking them out. Everything he's done is detailed right here. All the suitcases, the Mackays would go to the airport and steal them off the arrivals luggage carousel. They're diabolical. And I'll tell you a little story. I don't know if any of you have ever seen my outdoor Christmas lights display. It's very lively, everybody says. Well, my proud addition to it this year was a life-size light-up plastic snowman that my grandmother gave to me. She said I deserved it to have it now. Well, one silent night, Tommy Mackay came up on my lawn, unplugged it, ripped it from its place in my display, and stole it while Brandy and me were in the house decorating my Christmas tree. Brandy didn't hear him bark. He was so stealthy. And I have to say that I think it's justice that a man who stole my Christmas snowman met his end by freezing to death. So that's my new play, Sunset Gals. So there, I'll share that a little bit with you. So now I'm going to share with you something else during these pandemic times, things have been happening to me. So I had a number of encounters that were interesting, and I thought, what am I going to do with that? So I ended up writing yet another short little play. This one's called Claire's Bench. as about 2 people that meet in the park. And I sent it to my friends, Deborah and Lorna in Toronto to look at. And we can't really do it right now, but it has inspired kitty calling. So this is my, the Players Bench has inspired kitty calling with these 2 very different kind of people, Kitty and Bernice. So I tell you all to go to YouTube or wherever, and you will find episodes 1 and 2. And episode 2 is presently called COVID Hair. I don't know why any of us would think I would be inspired for such a thing. So that's that one. So next I'm going to share with you something of mine that I wrote that kind of is appropriate because it's in a kitchen, which as you can see, we're in the kitchen right now. So this is from my play, Something Drastic, which was based on came from my book. I wrote, one day I was writing and what I'll do is when I'm writing at my desk, I have lots of stuff, and I had newspaper clippings that I kept on my desk. And I had this really weird newspaper clipping that I then took and I typed it. I started typing, it was January the 6th, and I started typing, I typed this headline in, and I started writing. And suddenly it was this person writing a letter to someone, and I didn't know who it was. And then eventually I kept doing these weird things. I looked one day and I went, oh, I think this is a book. I think this could be a book. So anyway, it became my book, Something Drastic. And then 2 different directors came to me and said, I think this is a play. Would you turn it into a play? So I turned Something Drastic into a play. And I'm very happy it's been done in Toronto, and it's been done in Melbourne, Australia. And it premiered in Winnipeg. So it was quite exciting. So that's quite neat. So I'm going to read to you a little bit from the very opening of Something Drastic, where we find Lenore Rutland is in her kitchen cutting out a newspaper clipping from the Montreal Gazette. She talks to us. Today is January the 6th, the Feast of the Epiphany, the day the Magi visited the baby Jesus in the manger and brought him presents, the 12th day of Christmas, with the 12 lords a-leaping. 12 days since Christmas, so that makes it 11 days since my boyfriend left me. Man killed by turnip thrown from car. You're all wondering what kind of woman sends her boyfriend a story about a turnip that killed. Well, I'm wondering what sort of boyfriend would leave his girlfriend of almost 8 years on Boxing Day. Leave her a note like this on the fridge. Dear Lenore, I've left. Maybe you're happy with the status quo, but I'm not. I've gone to work in the tourist industry in Florida. And there was me standing there with Boxing Day show and tell. Merry Christmas from the both of us cards I got half price. 2 little muskrats wearing snowshoes walking through a Christmas tree forest. And cocktail napkins I thought were funny. I don't think so anymore because they happened to me. Go ahead, use me, throw me away. If I was psychic or anything, I would think some part of me knew Fergie was leaving before I got home to find out I was right. Know what Heidi Flynn said when I told her he left you on Boxing Day? The man's a sadistic monster. Now, she has many college degrees, so there's a really educated opinion of him. I had the worst Christmas of my entire life thanks to him, but I know Fergie being gone is only temporary. I know he didn't leave me. Fergie left the status quo. He's coming back because he never said goodbye on his note. He left behind so much stuff, and he gave me his forwarding address. It means he wants me to keep in touch, so I am. But how anybody can get a Florida post office box without going there first, I want to know. Why am I sending him this turnip story? Well, he might never know what someone could toss out their car window as he passes them by on whatever Florida highway he took out of my life. It doesn't have to be a turnip. It could be something way bigger and more American, like a pumpkin or a watermelon. This story says there have been 24 other cases of similar assaults using fruits and vegetables. That's good. Something drastic. All right. Now this is also, bear with, this is going a clicky clack. Okay. Lovely, lovely earrings. Aren't they beautiful? So, but they're making a click. Everything's making clicky clack on me. I'll just take this off too. Bear with. There we go. No clicky clack. All right, there we go. Now we're going to go with, I'm going to share with you, since you're all there, I'm going to share with you a little bit from my novel, Out for Stars. that is kind of really in keeping with these times. What happens is when I wrote, I will read you, what it's about is, I'll read you the story. Out for Stars. After a spectacular fall from grace at a New York firm, rising star Diana Kellogg is sentenced to spend 30 days in a ramshackle cottage in a northern Vermont summer town without the use of social media of any kind. Who could ever survive such a dystopian nightmare? Now, when I wrote this, this was like impossible. Who would have thought someone would be stuck and confined to a place and have to stay someplace? But now it's happening to all of us. But in her case, she gets stuck in, well, you'll see, she gets stuck in this ramshackle cottage in Vermont, and she's not allowed to use social media. So she wouldn't have Zoom, she wouldn't have any of this stuff. And this, she's stuck there for 30 days. And so it seemed kind of very, very appropriate. And the day that it starts, Kevin mentioned to you what day it starts. It was something I'd done. So I'm going to share a little bit for you from Out for Stars. And I want to tell you that to announce the Biblio Bobbity Boo Club in Toronto and Hamilton and other places, and is going to be doing it as part of their book club. So I'm very excited. So here we are with Out for Stars. A little bit for you from Out for Stars. And the name of it is from the poem by Robert Frost. But no, I was out for stars. I would not come in. I meant not even have asked, and I hadn't been. So there we go. Here's my book, Out for Stars. There's the front page. Oh, you can't see it. Light. There we go. Okay. All right. So this is called Hate to Quit It. So this begins with Hate to Quit It, June 16th, 2010. Dear Shannon, it's close to 48 hours of banishment, and I have not communicated social networking with anyone, be it by phone, by text, by tweet, by land, by sea, by any iDevices per clauses 1 to 6 of the agreement. Good for me. Nobody thought I could last as long being the addict I am, but look, Ma, Diana is using her hands to write an old-timey letter. How long was Jesus stuck out in the desert? You are now saying, leave it to Diana. Gone 2 days and she's comparing herself to Jesus. How much trouble is that going to land me into? Nothing so bad as getting landed for doing an improper impersonation of Perry Dalton. How did Perry and his hench people find this horrible shack anyway? They outdid themselves. A total hellhole. It's diabolical in its remoteness and awfulness, even if it's not in the middle of the desert or by the railroad tracks. There weren't even any post-it notes, hidden devices, or secret messages galore from any of you. Not one. I was in denial. I was delusional. I actually hoped that when I got here, it would all turn out to be some crazy setup or elaborate joke with a surprise party or a priority project requiring my particular skills, or the very worst, some sort of reality television show. But surprise, this is for real. The cruelty, all the humanity. How can he let his disciplinary measures be so extreme? An entire month in the country? Who knew about this northern Vermont backwater? If I had to be sent away to the country, to the Campagna, well, why couldn't it be to Provence or Tuscany? At least when I was free, I'd have learned to speak French or Italian. Anyway, I have served 2 days, so only 28 days left to go. Isn't that how long it takes someone to dry out, get sober, or lick their addictions? I almost wish they'd sent me to legitimate rehab, or at least those places have activities, rules, and your meals made for you. However, judging from the only 2 rehab movies I've ever seen, you get paired with a psychotic alcoholic or a drug fiend for a roommate who shows up and shows you where the secret bowling alley under the institution is, and then gets shock treatments and comes back looking like a zombie. At rehab, you have to make your own single bed every day and share a bathroom. I had a choice from 4 rustic boudoirs. I went with the queen with the least bumpy mattress. But I sure am sharing my bathroom here. Oh yes, with a million ladybugs. They've stuck me in an insectarium. And isn't there some terrible nursery rhyme about a ladybug flying away because her house is on fire and leaves her ladybugs to fry? This sure isn't a summer haven you see in any country living magazine, unless it was an issue on Gothic clutter or Rumpelstiltskin at home. The retired eccentrics who own this place sure have a lot of things. They didn't even store any of it away to make room for a renter. How selfish is that? Do I need to be bombarded with so much personality? They have way too many interests and hobbies. And the stairs going to the bedrooms each have some stenciled message painted on them, like, silence is for bumping into yourself. I sat on the rickety porch last night and drank. Oh, and guess what the porch has growing through the middle of it? A tree. I think it's an oak. It's like I'm stuck in some evil fairy tale cottage. The owners have all kinds of unmatched votive candle holders scattered around the porch, frogs and mice and angels. And I lit every single one of them. I was mellowing, minding my own business, when this man calls up from the road. How you liking the cat? This confused me because I'm not living in a tent. Thus began my education on New England folkisms. Camp is what they call a summer house in these parts. The man, who told me the name's Rosaire, finally decided he'd join me on the porch so we wouldn't have to holler at one another. I offered him some wine, and he told me, I don't drink no more. Used to, but don't keep me from your libations. Oh, I don't feel comfortable drinking alone, I said. You were doing fine till I got here, Rosaire replied. He remarked that the sawchucks liked tab. Maybe there was a cold one in the fridge. I went looking for whatever the hell was called tab. I figured it was some non-alcoholic cooler or a vegetarian smoothie. There were two of them. Rosaire could tell this beverage was news to me. Tab's what Diet Coke was before it were Diet Coke. You can think of it as Coke Zero, the prequel. Once he was all settled with his libation, I took the opportunity to ask what came first, the porch or the tree? Don't know. Both always been here far as I recall. But why would anyone build a house around a tree? And how many bugs and birds and things live out there? Got no idea. You got a lot of holes in your screen, he said, in a tone that suggested was something I'd have to see to. He wasn't offering to plug them up. Practically a colander. We sat in silence till there was a creepy yipping sound coming over from the marsh. Coy dogs. Coyotes that mated with dogs, Rosaire said, and chugged his tat from the can. Coy dogs are a coyote-dog mixture. Vermont dingoes, who knew? Now I do. A coy dog ate my baby. Another predator of note I should not overlook is the fisher cat. That's the marten of the minx genre, kills cats. A weasel, that's a murderer. Feral fun. I thought Vermont was full of cows and black lab dogs. They should have made me get a tetanus shot before sticking me here. If I catch rabies and die, my family will sue. Forget about it, Perry. The Kellogg's will own the firm, and you too. The entire time Rosaire was telling me about one murderous creature or another, that's where dive bombing and swooping past the screen. I think some of them may be coming from out from under your roof. You know, if you're awake at 3:30, 4 this morning, you could hear them returning. You know what I did wake me up? The sound of birds. They rise up, pre-dawn, and start chirping to one another. They are maniacs. Then I managed to fall back to sleep. But what shocks me awake was the aroma of skunk so overpowering, I thought it was in my room. So yes, bravo, Perry Dalton. I am in hell. So there we go. So that's from Out for Stars. And what I did with Out for Stars, there's actually, there were two houses. My sister and I have a cottage, our family cottage in Vermont. And when we were growing up, next door to us, there was a house called Robin's Nest, and it had a tree growing through the porch, and they tore it down. But all of us were fascinated by this Robin's Nest house. And there was another house on our street called Hate to Quit It. And it became such a wreck, they tore it down. So when I decided to create my little story, my house for my play, for my novel, I rebuilt Hate to Quit It. So it was kind of a combination of the Hate to Quit It house that tore down and the Robin's Nest as well. So that's what I've done. So I tend to rebuild things. In my play Cakewalk, I rebuilt the Bayview Inn, which was a lovely little fishing hotel that was torn down. So I tend to do that. I just heard a little bell. So I don't know if that means it's over or you want to talk to me. I'm open to questions. What was that all about? There was a bell. Someone left. I am new to Zoom, everybody. I almost didn't get on. We had a little crisis, and thank you so much. Edmund solved it, and now I'm here. So now I'm just wondering what's going on. Hello, Kathleen. I heard a bell ring. I'm wondering, did you have questions from the audience? Did people want to ask me anything?
All right. Well, I've got a question.
Yes.
Colleen, you're just so prolific. How can you sleep at night with all of these characters and stories going through your mind?
Well, I can actually. It's odd, but it's very weird that Claire's Bench. I could have said more about what happened with Claire's Bench that became Kitty Calling. I had an encounter with a very strange person at the very, very beginning of when the pandemic first started. And I went, and I actually said to her at one point, are you for real? And she said, I'm for real, all right. And so I went, oh, this is quite interesting. So I kind of had some aspects of that. And then something else happened to me. So that's ended up making a play out of it. So I'm always using stuff all the time. And then my bad hair, it's my lovely, I won't name it, my lovely neighbor offered me a chance to get a haircut in her backyard. So she was going to bring a hairdresser in for $10 and in her backyard. And I said no, because I thought I have to suffer like everyone else with bad hair. So that was the thing. So that inspired Kitty Calling. So anyhow, with Claire's Bench became Kitty Calling because my friends Lorna Wilson and Deborah Hale took it on, and they're brilliant in it. And I'm not going to read from it because they're so great reading it. I couldn't read because I was just hearing them read. So that's like, I have stuff that's coming at me all the time, and I'm writing it down, and yeah, I figure it's given to me.
That's fabulous. So the Kitty Calling is online?
Yes, it's on YouTube. Yes, under Kitty Calling. That's what it's called. Colleen Curran. My friends were really nice. They called my name on the top of it. Yeah, but it's, the two people in it, Deborah Hale and Lorna Wilson, are brilliant. So I'm so thrilled what they're doing. So we're going to be writing I'm writing episodes. I've got 3 and 4 in my head. So that's what I'm going to be writing this week.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, I can't see any questions. Are there any questions from the audience?
Kathleen, yep, there are questions coming in. One from Patricia Buera, who asks, besides Hello Kitty, what other projects are there in the works?
Oh, thank you, Patricia Buera, one of my dear friends in Vermont. Hello. I've got 3 different things I'm writing. I'm writing 2 other books, and I'm writing a play, another play that's going to go with Sunset Gals. Because what happens with Sunset Gals, and then Sunset Gals, the play I'm writing now, Fancy's Meteor Ray, takes place 20 years before, and it's Juliet, the police officer. It's her mom and her aunt, something that happens to them. So that's one of the things I'm writing right now. So those are my many projects. Yeah.
That's very good. Thank you, Colleen. Also remind people that you can click at the bottom of your screen, this little icon that says Q&A. You click
okay.
there.
I can click on that?
Not for you,
oh,
Colleen.
No, sorry.
For the audience who would love to ask you questions, and some of them already are. So for them, yeah, you simply click Q&A at the bottom and enter your question. I have one from Louise. She says, do you have a different mindset when you're writing a play versus writing a novel?
I've got this very strange mindset for everything, I guess. Because what happened with Something Drastic was I started writing this, and I thought it was a monologue, like a Shirley Valentine monologue. And then when I was writing it, I suddenly realized it was a book. And so I ended up, so it's different, but at certain times they just know how they're supposed to be told, but they're all tend to be kind of theatrical, I guess. Yeah. I probably didn't answer the question very well, but that's, yeah. Better now?
That's great. Marlene Chan says, I guess it's a comment and a question. She says, you look familiar. I thought you were on a cruise ship.
Yeah, well, you might have seen one of my relatives, Carmel O'Reilly, yesterday. Well, she's actually still on a cruise ship, and she's still there, and she's trapped on the cruise ship, and no one's coming to her show anymore. So you might have seen, I heard that she made an appearance yesterday at the concert, the Bloomsday concert. Yes. And Carmel O'Reilly comes from a fine tradition. I grew up with Carmel Quinn records, among others, and all these kind of Ruby Murray. And so I always had this thing about, Irish entertainers and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where she came from. So that's why I might look a bit like her. There.
Oh, there it is. It's a familiar look.
No, she has a green dress, I think, too. Yes.
It's like a superhero. You take off your glasses and you become Carmen.
I become, yes.
That's wonderful.
Like I was taking off all my clothes during this. Yes. Did you all hear the clacky clack when I was reading? You could.
It was not too distracting. It was fine.
Okay, I'll put this back on.
There's another question here from Judith and David. They ask, will you tell us something about Ireland's own O'Reilly tonight?
Oh, okay. About the play. I don't know if any of you saw it. When we did the play Ireland's Own Carmel O'Reilly tonight, and Corey Castle directed it, and we did it at Theatre St. Catherine. And it was Carmel O'Reilly's show at the Ballymalarkey Castle in Ireland, and it was at the beginning of the Celtic Tiger. And during the show, she's doing all these little shows, and she's quite embarrassingly shamrogery, over the top Irish. She gets her card. She gets fired because they say they don't want this kind of. It's kind of, the Irish don't like it because it's leprechauns and all that kind of thing. So she gets fired during the course of the play. So we ended up doing it at Theatre St. Catherine for 4 nights. And I brought in all my friends and family, and everybody helped me with the set, and it was fabulous, and we had a really great show. But unfortunately, we got that when we were doing it, the third night of the Saturday night, we got the worst snowstorm that Montreal had. We had, I think, 7 snowstorms that winter, and we got the worst snowstorm, and people had to climb over snowbanks to come into the theater. So that was Carmel O'Reilly. So Carmel O'Reilly is somebody that's an entertainer. But so now what I've got is she's now on well, as far as I know, she's still on that ship, the Emerald Princess, hoping that they will land at some shore so she can get off and do her show somewhere. Maybe she'll be back in time for Bloomsday itself.
I'm just entranced by the Sunset Gals and dying to know who kills who and why. So we need the backstory as well. Kevin, do you want to take it away?
I'm getting all these strange messages on the screen. Now, before I thank you, there's a couple of comments that I would like to make. There's something about dates. Out for Stars is on June 16th, right?
Yes.
Now, you talked about the vegetable murder, or whatever it was called, the turnip flying and killing someone.
Yes.
On January 6th, the Epiphany. You probably remember the film with Angelica Houston, The Dead, which takes place on January 6th. And Mr. Joyce was very fond of epiphanies.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Extremely fond of them. Now, the other thing that you made me think of is this morning when we were watching the walking tour, Donovan was talking about some of the funerary customs in Griffintown. Now, Mr. Joyce might have called it fun-for-all customs. He's talking about how sometimes when the corpse was stood up in the coffin at the end of the room, that they would have singing and dancing and whatever. And if somebody fell asleep, what they would do is they would take the corpse out of the coffin and put the person who had fallen asleep into the coffin and put shoe polish all over him, which was a sign of typhus. Sort of like this person at the wedding who fell asleep, and what happened to him? He got a plaster cast. In conclusion, having learned that you are the descendant of a writer and the sister of another one, we know exactly who you belong to. Thank you very much, Colleen, for presenting your pieces of writing to us this afternoon, and we look forward to seeing them in person somewhere on a stage. This confinement is finally over. Thank you very much.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. Join us tomorrow for the academic panels at 10.